How Christianity really came to Africa. When we think about Christianity in Africa, many people today, especially within the African diaspora, believe it came through oppression, colonialism, and force. And honestly, when you look at later periods of European imperialism, it's easy to see why that belief exists. European powers did use Christianity as a tool during colonization, twisting it to justify slavery, racism, and conquest. But if we look deeper into the early history of Christianity, into the real roots, we find a much more complex and powerful story. A story where Africa wasn't just a victim receiving the faith, but a central player in shaping it. Today, Christianity is one of the most widely practiced religions among African and African-descended people worldwide. So the question is, how did African people originally come to know about Christianity? And what was Africa's role in the early Christian world? Let's take a journey back in time and explore Christianity's birthplace, Africa's neighbor. Christianity was born in the Levant, a region made up of modern-day Israel, Palestine, Lebanon, Syria, and Jordan. This area sits at the crossroads of Africa, Asia, and Europe, literally a stone's throw from Egypt. After Jesus' death and resurrection, his followers began spreading his teachings throughout the region, into Egypt, Ethiopia, and beyond, long before Christianity ever touched Europe in a major way. But centuries later, when Europeans embraced Christianity, especially during the Renaissance, they produced religious art that portrayed biblical figures like Jesus, Mary, and the apostles with European features. This wasn't necessarily because they wanted to deceive, but because people tend to paint figures to look like themselves. Over time, though, these images were weaponized. Christian art became a powerful tool for European supremacy, especially during the age of colonialism, suggesting that Christianity was a white man's religion. As 21st century scholars, thinkers, and leaders within the Black community revisit history, they are uncovering the full, rich African roots of Christianity, roots that date back to the very beginning. Africa's first encounters with Jesus. According to the Christian Bible itself, Africa appears very early in the story. In the book of Matthew 2 verses 14 to 15, when Jesus was still a young child, his family fled to Egypt to escape King Herod's attempts to kill him. So Joseph got up, took the child and his mother during the night, and left for Egypt, where he stayed until the death of Herod. Think about that for a moment. Jesus, as a baby, found refuge in Africa. Africa wasn't just a backdrop, it was a sanctuary at one of the most critical points in Jesus' life. Later on, during Jesus' crucifixion, another African figure appears, Simon of Cyrene. Cyrene was located in what is now modern-day Libya in North Africa. Simon helped carry Jesus' cross when Jesus could no longer do it himself. So, from the very beginning of the Christian story, Africans are present, not as outsiders, but as part of the foundational events. The first African Christian convert. The book of Acts 8 verses 26 to 39 tells another key story, the Ethiopian eunuch. An angel told Philip, one of Jesus' apostles, to travel on a certain desert road. There, Philip met a high official from the Ethiopian kingdom, a man responsible for managing the treasury of the Candake, the queen. This Ethiopian was already spiritually seeking. He had traveled to Jerusalem to worship, and was reading the book of Isaiah when Philip met him. Philip explained the message of Jesus to him, and the Ethiopian asked to be baptized right then and there. This event is significant because it shows that Christianity naturally spread into Africa almost immediately, not by force, but through genuine belief. And this Ethiopian official carried the faith back with him to his homeland. Christianity's deep roots in Nubia and Ethiopia. Beyond individual conversions, Christianity established deep institutional roots in Africa early on. Nubia's Christian kingdoms. In the region south of Egypt, known as Nubia, three major Christian kingdoms emerged: Nobatia, Makuria, and Alodia. Christianity began spreading there around the 5th century AD. The kings of these regions took their Christian faith seriously. For example, King Silko of Nobatia converted to Christianity and even wrote inscriptions in Greek praising the faith. But perhaps the most famous Christian kingdom was Makuria. Makuria became legendary for resisting Islamic conquest. At the Battle of Dongola in the 7th century, Makurian archers devastated an invading Arab Muslim army. The Muslim historian al-Baladuri recorded how Makurian warriors blinded Arab soldiers with showers of arrows, earning them the nickname pupil smiters. Because of their fierce defense, the Nubians negotiated a peace treaty called the Pact, allowing Nubia to remain Christian for over 600 more years. Their kings even adopted Christian names like Abraham, Solomon, and David, showing how deeply embedded Christianity had become in Nubian identity. In fact, archaeological discoveries have found churches, monasteries, murals, and tombstones in Nubia, all covered with Christian symbols and African art styles, blending the faith with African culture. Ethiopia, one of the world's oldest Christian nations. Meanwhile, further east, Ethiopia became one of the very first Christian nations in the world. Under King Ezana of the Aksumite Empire, Christianity was declared the official state religion around 330 AD, long before most of Europe was even Christian. The story goes that a young Christian man from Lebanon named Frumentius was shipwrecked off the Ethiopian coast. He was brought to the Aksumite court and eventually rose to a position of influence. Frumentius introduced King Ezana to Christianity, and after Ezana converted, he asked Frumentius to become the first bishop of Ethiopia. The Ethiopian Church, known as the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church, remains one of the oldest and most unique Christian traditions in the world today, preserving practices and teachings that date back to early Christianity. Ethiopia's Christian identity became so strong that even after the rise of Islam, the Ethiopian emperors maintained their faith through centuries of wars and isolation. Christianity in West Africa. Now, what about West Africa? It's true that in many parts of West Africa, Christianity arrived much later, mainly through interactions with Portuguese traders in the 15th century. When the Kingdom of Congo encountered the Portuguese, relations were initially positive. Congo leaders willingly embraced Christianity, seeing it as a way to strengthen diplomatic and economic ties. King Zinga Nkuwu was baptized and took the Christian name Joao I. His son, Afonso I, became an even more devout Christian and worked hard to merge Christian teachings with Congo traditions. There was even a Congo version of Christianity, where African and Christian traditions blended, showing how Africans weren't passive recipients, but active interpreters of the faith. The truth: Christianity was not foreign to Africa. So when we look at the bigger picture, we see that Christianity naturally flowed into Africa through direct interactions with Jesus, through early converts like the Ethiopian eunuch, through the establishment of powerful Christian kingdoms in Nubia and Ethiopia, and through trade and diplomacy in West Africa. It wasn't just brought by colonialism. It wasn't just forced onto enslaved Africans. Africa has been part of the Christian world from the very beginning. In fact, many of the greatest early Christian thinkers, like Tertullian, Origen, Athanasius, and Augustine of Hippo, were African. The reality is, Africa helped shape early Christianity. Africa didn't just receive the faith. Africa helped build it. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want to learn more about the rich, powerful history of African civilizations, be sure to support the home team. Remember, know thyself, honor thy ancestors, stay blessed, peace.